नमस्कार सिक्किम क्रोनिकलमा तपाईहरू सबैजनालाई स्वागत छ। सिक्किम क्रोनिकलको विशेष प्रस्तुति इलेक्सन स्पेशल तपाईहरूले हेरिरहनु भएको छ। वेल, हामीले लगातार रूपमा तपाईहरूलाई जति पनि विधानसभा अनि पार्लियामेन्ट्री सिट सम्बन्धित जति पनि न्युज अपडेट छ यो हामी तपाईहरूलाई क्रमैले लिएर आइरहेका छौँ भने हामी तपाईहरूलाई विशेष आजको यस एडिसनमा यस्तो इन्डिपेन्डेन्ट पोइन्ट अफ भ्यू हामी तपाईहरू माझ राख्न लागिरहेका छौँ। अनि विशेष त पत्रकार जगतले पनि यस इलेक्सनलाई एकदमै नियमित रूपमा कभरेज गरिरहेको छ र पत्रकार पोइन्ट अफ भ्यू, जर्नलिस्टिक पोइन्ट अफ भ्यू आज हामी यस एडिसनमा बुझ्नेछौँ। एन्ड हु एल्स बेटर देन मिस्टर पेमा वाङचुक। उहाँ एकजना सिजन जर्नलिस्ट हुनुहुन्छ, सिनियर जर्नलिस्ट हुनुहुन्छ अनि फर मेनी इयर्स ही हेज बिन कभरिङ द इलेक्सन्स एन्ड ही हेज बिन अ भेरी क्लोज अब्जर्भर अफ पोलिटिक्स इन दिस स्टेट अफ सिक्किम। अनि उहाँ समिट टाइम्सको कन्सल्टिङ एडिटर पनि हुनुहुन्छ। Mr. Wangchuk, once again, welcome to Sikkim Chronicle and thank you for doing this. First and foremost, let me ask you, यो सोध्न चाहन्छु कि people have been saying that यो पालि चुनावको जुन माहौल छ यो एकदमै तात्तिएको छैन, गर्मागर्मी भएको छैन, अनलाइक प्रिभियस इयर्स भन्दैछ। एज अ जर्नलिस्ट, हाउ डु यु सी, बिकज आई बिन कभरिङ
So things have changed. So we first noticed it, I think, in the last elections where the campaign time was very shortened, and I think that is what is playing out essentially. Paila, like every constituency ma euta thulo public meeting and multiple smaller meetings by the candidates hunu garthyo, but now since the last election we've not really seen that. Everybody has started going for this do one big public meeting for 4-5 constituencies, and अहिले यस्तो हेर्दाखेरि त maybe that will also not happen this time.
So,
right?
यो चाहिँ किनभने ECI को डाइरेक्टिभ्सहरू अलिकति गाइडलाइन्सहरू अलिकति मोर स्ट्रिक्ट भएको कारणले गर्दाखेरि हो?
No, I think no, because you got to understand public meeting किन गर्थ्यो? It was an outreach, right? त्यो outreach को लागि पहिला the only way to reach out to your voters, the electorate, was to bring them to one place. Now with everyone having a smartphone and access to the people becoming much easier, the need for big political public meetings, I think, is limited to show of strength. Because I thought पहिला पनि it was a lot of waste, these big public meetings, campaign meetings, because Sikkim सानो ठाउँ हो. You don't really need to have a big public meeting to reach out to the electorate because they were always about show of strength. त्यो show of strength I think build up मा गरिसके नि, joining, leaving, car rallies, Shakti Pradarshans, that has already happened. So I think it's ECI, please. I mean, like, I don't really take the ECI very seriously.
Okay. So basically now most of the political parties are really आफ्नो candidates field गरिसकेको छ है, public बनाइसकेको छ, and because of this अलिकति momentum gain भएको छ. So this time, what we see is a straight fight. There's a individual fight between the parties, right? There's SKM, SDF, there's BJP, there's CAP, right? So how do you see, यो पालिको जुन the political parties actively involved in the electoral process, how do you see this?
Oh, it's always very good. If you look at past history, Sikkim ko election ko past history, since 79 onwards, whenever there is a direct fight between two parties, the incumbent has an upper hand. Whereas if there are 3 or 4 parties which are maybe not very strong but which are contesting with full strength, at that time it becomes very interesting because then the vote share gets divided. So it's to understand it very simply, let's say at a constituency, if there are, let's say there are 100 voters. If there are only 2 parties fighting, you need 51 votes to win. If all of them vote, you need 51 votes to win. But if there are 3 parties and they're all contesting very well, and let's say everyone ka at a core strength is 20%, like 20-20-20 baade norma, then whoever gets even 38% of the votes can form the government. So where paila you had to convince 51% of the voters to vote for you, now you can win by just consolidating 38%. So for an incumbent government, one-on-one is the best, right? Because for the opponents, they have to come from almost zero and rise all the way past 50 to win. Whereas if it's three ways, then your target vote share to win an election becomes much lesser. Last election normally it was last election was in almost sabai constituency ma duita party ko beach ma matai contest थियो, SDF and SKM, right? But wherever there was, I mean, I can think only of Arithang, but wherever there was another third strong candidate, then 40% votes lay, you won the election.
The
so
margin is less.
yeah, I mean, so multi-cornered fight ma chahi, most of the times it becomes more difficult for the incumbent governments. Not necessarily true, but normally like the fight becomes more real.
सो अलिकति क्यान्डिडेट्सको बारेमा कुराकानी गर्दा लेट्स स्टार्ट विथ एसकेएम. सो एसकेएमले हिजो मात्र उहाँहरूको लिस्ट जारी गर्नुभयो एन्ड ड्युरिङ इभिनिङ डिस्कसन आई वाज टेलिङ लाइक इन माई पोइन्ट अफ भ्यू आई थट इट वाज अ भेरी इन्क्लुजिभ लाइक लिस्ट वे सबै कुरोलाई ध्यानमा राखेको छ, वेदर इट बी लाइक जातीय समीकरण अर वेदर इट गिभिङ लाइक सिट्स टु वुमेन इन कम्पेरिजन टु 2019 अर जातलाई मिलाएर अर मेबी लाइक पुरानोलाई 50% राखेर न्यू फेसेस इन्ट्रोड्युस गर्नु. So what do you think, like, the structured list which has been come out, like, of SDF candidate, what does it signifies in your point of view?
SDF, SKM. Were there any surprises in the SKM list? There were some. And followed, which is normal for every election. I think last election, the kamti nahi sa yo pali. This people expecting a ticket or not getting it. So it's always difficult to comment on the quality of candidates, right? The choice of the candidates, because things are different from constituency to constituency. Where you are strong, you can take a risk. Like junche gad huncha, tyaha you can take a risk with who you choose. Elsewhere, I think the winning quotient becomes more important. So there are surprises in both SDF and SKM lists, yes. But I will not say I was blown away by any of them. Ki, oh my God, this is so exciting and interesting. That I didn't see in anyone's list that has come out so far. There is no
Wow factor.
Yeah, I would say that. It's like a normal list, I would say. But no big shocks or no pleasant surprises.
Even in SDF list, like...
Yeah, SDF list, per force, because they lost so many of their leaders to other parties, there would be some names that we don't recognize from previous elections. So we can't really comment on that, about what their appeal in the constituencies would be. But, for instance... if the SKM list is not very exciting and inspiring, I would say the same with the SDF as well. Like, these are not candidates that we saw being groomed. Otherwise, you see a lot of people who come out in the public for a party, and you notice that they are being groomed for a particular role. So we didn't see any of those. We didn't see too many of those, right? If they were talking about youth, then I don't see a huge
That's what I'm saying,
presence of youth.
Youth representation, kasto dekhnu bhayo tapaile?
Youth is, like they say, youth is wasted on the young. Because you want the youth to come with some experience, right? You have to have, because Sikkim doesn't have a very vibrant youth politics, college politics, so we don't see anyone making a name as a young leader. Very rarely do you see anyone impressing as a young leader, and then you're waiting for them to make a mark in the more serious role as MLAs or contesting the elections. So,
but Citizen Action Party has given new faces as well as like
but that is their call, right? I mean, Citizen Action Party's whole plank is reforms and reforms through a youthful presence. So yes, they've got a lot of young faces. So I would like to see how they campaign. You see, I mean, just having young people, I'm not trying to be pessimistic or running anyone down, but if you are an untested personality, public figure, then we will have to see how they campaign. See, the outreach says a lot about what a candidate is about, right? I mean, youth or age in itself is not a major issue. It is how they connect with with their constituents, with their electorate. That will be exciting to see. I'd like to kind of see some of their outreach programs. I mean, like attend some of them and see how that works.
SKM has given chance to some of the bureaucrats जसले चाहिँ आफ्नो like पोस्टबाट voluntary retirement लिएर now they have plunged into politics. What kind of difference it would make especially?
I'm trying to think, how many do we have?
3.
No, candidates nahi. In the SKM list, there are 3?
3.
I could think of only 2. Okay. Anyways, no. I mean, politics, like journalism, anyone can enter. And I would not say that it's good or bad. What would be ideal, I think, if a bureaucrat wants to enter politics, what would be ideal is if they resigned, if they took VRS at least 3 years before the elections and told the people that I want to enter politics and serve the people through politics. And I think that's a test of someone's commitment to politics. Resigning a day or two before the elections are called and being on that seat till the very last is, I don't know, not the ideal situation. But it's not right or wrong. It's how I feel. I mean, I would be more excited if a sitting officer resigned, let's say, after the results are declared, and then say, for the next 5 years, I am going to reach out and figure out how I can serve the people politically. Not resign a week before the elections and say, let's see who gives me a ticket.
Exactly. So there were so many speculations, especially taking the alliance, pre-poll alliance between SKM and BJP. Now, since all the parties are fighting solo, so tell us यसको impact कस्तो हुन्छ होला political spectrum, especially election.
It all depends, I think, on how seriously BJP campaigns and how seriously BJP's central leadership supports the state unit. If BJP campaigns with full strength and if the BJP central leadership gives them the full support to the state unit, because that's important, because Paila Pani, we've had instances in Sikkim when Congress, for instance, when Mr. Bhandari at one time was leading it, contested the elections with full steam, and but they did not have enough support from their Delhi. And by support from Delhi, I mean it's their government, right? So it is administrative as well. It's about telling officers here that you do your job properly and things like that. If that happens, it'll become really interesting, the contest.
But what is the message BJP is trying to give it to the Sikkimese society by not going in pre-poll alliance with the SKM?
I mean, they did try. I mean, pre-poll alliance existed until a few days back. SKM did give them 2 of the 3 by-election seats, 1 Rajya Sabha. So that was existing. It was always a big risk for any regional party in Sikkim to get into an official alliance, seat-sharing alliance with a national party, whether it's BJP or Congress. Congress doesn't exist anymore, but I'm talking about past history. I mean, Congress doesn't exist as a serious force in Sikkim anymore. So seat-sharing would have been difficult to agree to. The negatives of such an arrangement would have hurt SKM more, I would feel. So they just, I think, calculated how things were.
So do you think it has been an advantage for SKM not going in alliance with BJP?
Advantage as far as its image in Sikkim goes, but not necessarily advantage in as far as its relationship with Delhi goes. Right? They might take offense, and we know how Delhi can be, especially the present time. So in that sense, yes. I mean, just think about it. I mean, alliance would have been seat sharing, right? The number being thrown around at one time was 5.
5.
But 5 means that you are left with only 27 tickets to distribute. So we already saw how difficult it was for a party in office to accommodate everyone with 32. 5 अझै कम्ती भएको भए they would have been even more disgruntlement, apart from the fact that the image that BJP carries would also have forced many of SKM's core supporters to have a second thought, that do they want to continue supporting a party which they are not ideologically in sync with. So that way. For BJP, it's good. I think BJP going it alone is good because it tests the local leadership. I think right now BJP has perhaps its best state unit that it has ever had. There are some very hardworking, at least, leaders that they have. They have some very potential winners in the list. So for them also it's been good. Like when they say that about haath kholyo, or whatever is the term they use, that now they are free to campaign without any restrictions of alliance partners and sensitivities, the best chance for BJP is right now, I would say, so far.
Right. So parliamentary seat को कुराकानी गरौँ है, धेरै speculations थियो, and especially SKM को लोकसभा क्यान्डिडेटलाई लिएर. So now Indrang Subba has been now named, है, Dr. Indrang Subba. धेरै मैले सोशल मिडियामा पनि देखिरहेको थिएँ, people, they were like mixed reactions and like, you know, comments on his, like, you know, getting renominated. So what is your point of view? Because look, it has always been this case of, like, you know, whether the elected parliament would rake up the issues related with the Sikkim, such as Limbu Tamang seat reservation, tribal status to 12 communities, or bringing Kamapa to Sikkim. So how do you see, like, you know, what could be the what could have SKM thought on mind again, like, you know, naming Dr. Indrang Subba?
I mean, obviously the party is happy with his performance. What they expected Indrang to deliver as an MP for SKM, he must have delivered it. That's why he gets the ticket again, right? But what people have to also bear in mind is that an MP, especially if he belongs to a political party, does not speak on his own. I mean, he represents the party. He gets the directions from the party because the parliament is a serious platform. So how he votes, the question he raises, those are things that are directed by the party, right? He has to go by what the party has to say. And he was a first-time MP. So even more so that he would have to look for the... So if anyone is upset with his performance as an MP, they should be upset with SKM, really, right? Maybe he didn't get the right briefing. So, because as far as SKM is concerned, they obviously are completely satisfied with how he performed as an MP. So that is one point. The other is that you got to remember that Indrang got more votes in the MP elections than SKM got in the assembly. So he did manage to excite Sikkimese voters a lot. I mean, you got to remember that a lot of Sikkimese voters, Sikkim's voters right now are very young. So where the only criticism I would have of his 5-year term is that he should have realized that he was not just representing SKM supporters anymore. Mm-hmm. Because people who did not vote for SKM in the assembly elections voted for him in the Lok Sabha. So there was a bigger endorsement that he carried. So maybe on that count, I'm sure even he would realize that on that count, maybe he did not measure up completely. But then, like, that's how MPs are. Like, except Dilkumari Bhandari's very powerful performance in the parliament once, any other MP you remember who really impressed with his role, all of them were men, his role or performance or speaking up for Sikkim? No, so why single him out for so much hate?
As SDF has like fielded again PD Rai and CAP has Mr. Bharat Basnit, and these two leaders are the stalwarts, like in the political spectrum. So how difficult it would be for Indra Hang, in fact, to compete with these two?
So I don't know. Uh, I mean, he's got youth on his side, and the appeal, which neither of the other two candidates have, right? So that's one plus on his side. The public perception, if social media is any indication of that, is something that he will have to counter. He also connects very well with. He surprisingly, I have a feeling, manages to connect very well in how he speaks in his public addresses, which we've not seen much of this time, but in the previous election we did see him. So he has that connect as well. So his chances are, if you take away the fact that he's the incumbent MP, so that he would lose some support, it's still very good, I would say. I would say it depends upon how the others leverage their campaign, right? It depends upon how SDF campaigns for the Lok Sabha, how CAP campaigns for the Lok Sabha. Do they campaign for the Lok Sabha just like they're campaigning for the Assembly? Because it should not. These are completely different roles. So if they have a different way of approaching the elections, that will be interesting to see. But we've never seen that in the past, so why will we see it now?
So every election has a mudda, right? The issues,
Yeah.
and many political parties are yet to release their manifestos. What do you think, as a journalist, being across, like I mean, when you see like this election, Sikkimma jaldo baldo mudda ke ho, jasma like election revolts.
Specific issues, I mean, we can discuss specific issues later. People will raise, right? I mean, there's Limbu Tamang seat, there's that protection of old laws. But I don't know how they are issues if all the parties are saying the same thing. See, they become an issue if SKM has a different way of solving it, if SDF has a different way of solving it, CAP has a different way of solving it, BJP has a different way of solving it. Then I choose, right? I say, okay, this is an important issue for me. I like SKM's plan, I like SDF's plan, or whatever, right? But if these common issues, all the parties, national, regional, senior, young, if all of them are saying taking exactly the same position, then it ceases to be a issue, right? Because then it's an issue for the voter, but it's not deciding who I vote for. Because everyone has been equally successful, equally failed, right? That is why there are still issues that need to be resolved. At the end of the day, I think every election in Sikkim has been about the people who are in office going to the people and saying, do you want how things are going to continue? So if you like what happened in the past 5 years, you give us the vote and we'll continue. So whoever is in the office is asking for continuance, right? That you saw us for 5 years, now tell us if you like it, then bring us back. If you look at the opposition, okay, I mean, SDF is saying, what is their slogan? Sikkim Bachao. Sikkim Bachao Abhiyan, right? So if they manage to convince the people that Sikkim needs to be saved, then that is the mudda for them, right? Similarly, CAP is about reforms, which is kind of similar with what SDF is saying, but then every opposition party is going to say that, right? Change, reform. But CAP has consistently come up with this whole idea of reform, a systemic reform, right? From way the administration works, from the way that politics works and things like that. So if that, so their point is, so they're not competing against, I mean, from what I understand from their public utterances is that they're not so much against the SKM government at present. They are against the way governments have been till now in Sikkim, right? SDF, SKM, SSP, Congress, whatever that you've had in the past, that all of this needs to be reformed, and hence we are here with a model. BJP is quite clearly anti-corruption, right? I mean, I think their the point that they have been focusing on a lot is that they're going to end corruption. So these are what they are going to go with. And it will now be up to the voters to decide, because I don't think a voter will say, okay, I trust these guys to protect the old laws more than that party, because there is no party that is saying that we're going to get rid of old laws. Everybody is saying we want to protect it. We are letter and spirit of Article 370. All of that, they are common, right? Is there any political party that says they will not get tribal status for 12 left out communities? They're all agreeing on that. So these are not issues that will decide who you vote for, because everybody is promising you that. So I think it's more about
local issues.
Continuance. No, it's about SKM saying, this is what we've done. We want to continue. Do you want it? SDF saying Sikkim needs to be saved. So if you believe in that, you vote for them. So I think that is primarily where they are placed.
So basically, every election we talk about this section of voters, what we call the silent voters, especially catering to the urban population, though they never they express their political affiliation or whom they are supporting, right? So. What kind of difference exactly silent voters makes? Whenever we talk, we discuss, we say यो पालि silent voters ले चाहिँ decide गर्ने चाहिँ भनेर भन्छ नि. What do you think on this?
I don't believe in silent voters. I've never seen silent voters having a role because you tell me, when did you see silent voters as a factor in Sikkim elections? 2019. No, SKM supporters were very vocal. 2014, no, SKM supporters were very vocal. And before that, SDF had almost clean sweeps, and there were no vocal voters, vocal opposition, because there was no opposition, as we saw in the voting, right? So I think silent voters is what people say when they can't show a public endorsement or excitement for their candidature, right? Mm-hmm. So we say that. I could be wrong. I'm not even a politician. This is how I see it. I think a bigger role, so I would not say silent voters, I would say the floating voters, right? Who are not completely hardcore supporters of any party. So SDF will have a certain hardcore support base, which is going to vote for SDF, at least for, if SDF comes into opposition this time as well, I think for another election, SDF will still have some core voters, right? It will come down, but it will have a core voter. SKM has a core vote base, right? The others are new, so we don't know about them. But SDF and SKM have a core vote base. What they are actually campaigning for is the floating voter who does not really care. Who does not care if SKM comes back to office or not, who does not care if SDF wins this election or not. They are just watching and will probably decide their vote a day or on the day that they go to vote. Sikkim likes to vote. That's there. So I think that is where the campaign should always be, because you have to make sure that your core voter shows up to vote. See, it's very important. Why do parties need to make such a strong presence and make these claims of strength, which might not really be true, is because they want to convince their core voter that don't lose heart, right? We are making a serious fight. We are giving a serious fight so that the core voter comes out to vote, right? So that vote is guaranteed if he comes or she comes. What they should be really campaigning for is to convince the floating voters, the voters who are not hardcore ideologically belonging or indebted to any party, because they will decide. And very soon, I think as early as this election, if not, I'm sure by the next election, this floating vote, which is always young. See, once you are my age, you belong to a camp. Right? You can't help it. You'll die with that party. It's too late to change or improve. But when you're young, you are excited about new ideas. You're excited about new ways of campaigning. You're excited about new faces. You're excited about the language being used by the politicians to campaign. So if any politician continues to campaign with the speeches they were giving in the 90s, they are not going to get the young vote, because that young voter is not going to vote for them just because they're so boring.
They cannot relate, actually.
They can't relate, and they'll say, I've got a father at home who bores me anyways with all this. Why will I give you my vote and send you to the assembly as well, right? You have to at least speak a younger language. I mean, you have to get the young interested in today's time is very difficult.
So I still remember 2014 देखि टेक्नोलोजिकल इन्टरभेन्सन आएको इलेक्सनमा पनि विथ अल दिस सोसल मिडिया एन्ड ट्विटर्स एन्ड अल कतिको इफेक्ट पार्छ स्पेसली वेन वी टक इन टर्म्स अफ सिक्किम लाइक does really social media what we see and read in social media decides and turns into a vote bank?
No, it doesn't turn into vote banks. I don't think so. Because that way we are saying that the people are easily brainwashed. But it has a role in creating a perception, right? So I think the biggest role that social media played was in 2014. When SKM managed to leverage Facebook so well that they created this whole impression that they have created this massive wave. So if you look at 2014, wherever you had good internet connectivity and Facebook usage, like Gangtok and its surroundings, SKM did very well. But where it didn't reach out, that messaging didn't reach out there. Then they kept talking about like that silent wave that never happened, right? But by 2019, and I think now, people know that because they themselves have been using social media and it's filtered so much that everybody knows that a lot of things on social media are fake. I'm not saying that the political parties are spreading fake news on social media, but that's the perception people have. I don't trust photographs of my friends on Facebook because, like, what is the first reaction people do? I mean, they're probably sitting in front of a green screen or they're using so many filters. We know that it's doctored. A lot of social media messaging people in private lives know is doctored. So same goes for the political parties as well, right? The same mindset continues. People talk about WhatsApp universities and things like that. I don't think so. I think people know, but they'll still consume it because they're enjoying the gossip and the claims. But I don't think it has a role in even creating perceptions. It is a place where the hardcore supporters, the real bhakts, or in Sikkim's case, the karyakartas and the whatever is the term they use, kantikaris for SKM, where they will go and fight with each other, which is good so long as they don't fight on the streets.
So tell us, like, let's talk about the fraternity, finally. How do you see, like, media reporting this election, especially the registered media houses? Because it's during election that we see so much mushrooming of, like, the media houses, the Facebook, like, handlers and all. How do you see the media's role, especially this election?
I don't know, because I think the media is still in a flux. So the media is doing a great job of reporting events, right? Ticket released, now nomination paper submitted. That information, I think the media will do pretty well. But, I mean, this is different, right? We are at least discussing. But if I've got a video, if I'm shooting live, let's say, of an event taking place, and all that I'm doing in my piece to camera is describing what is taking place, not journalism.
Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I mean, and if it is just information like the list that is out, candidates, or who filed a nomination paper, who's got rejected, you don't need media for that. The party is issuing a statement, the DC's office will issue an update. So I don't know how being in the steering hurry to reach and report on something that everybody knows is happening, that everybody is shooting and beaming live even in their private Facebook channels, that is not journalism. I mean, you would want more of, but now it's too late for this election, I think. But we did see that happening in the previous elections when print was still a thing, is when we would report from constituencies about what are the issues of a constituency and at least add some information is my point. Context, right? As journalists, I think our role has to be to provide context to what is happening, because the information is floating everywhere anyways. So if we had just one more medium to give that information, then Not journalism.
So finally, our 19th people will be voting in. Out of 32 constituencies, there are many constituencies which people would look up to, and there'll be a larger public interest in these constituencies. For example, the chief minister is contesting from Renok and Soreng. So Mr. Chamling is from Namchepong and also from this seat Poklok Kamrang. Ganesh Rai from Chujachen and Malli, and we have Mr. D.R. Thapa from Bud. So apart from these constituencies, which will be more on news because of the candidate, what do you think, which constituencies will grab more eyeballs?
Oh, wherever the voter is, that's the most important constituency for them, right? But some contests that will be interesting to watch. I mean, Gangtok, it's a reserve seat, yes, but it's still it carries the name of the capital. Mm-hmm. And given how things have played out and how... So individual contest, yes, of course, right? And I'm sure there are some in Soreng and Gazing as well that we are not really privy to about the local politics that will be at play there, right? Mm-hmm. Which family is going to do what and who is upset and things like that. So Shari will be important because, as will Arithang for that matter, right? If you think about it, if the two parties, SDF and SKM, perform exactly how they performed in the last elections, then given the way SDF lost the last election only because, for many reasons, but if they had picked the right candidate for Shari and Arithang, they would have been where SKM is today, right? The 2 seats would have made the difference. They now have those 2 guys, right, contesting. So it will be interesting from that front. But from how positions have changed, Sangha will be interesting, where you have Mr. Chitan Tashi and Yukwada Sangha Lama, who were comrades in arms for the longest time. When he was in the opposition, they were together. And it's just about 3,000, 4,000 voters and 2 big monasteries. So that will be interesting to see how they campaign. So Sangha will actually see a campaign this time. Earlier, it was quite a small constituency, almost decided who's going to win. So that will be there, yes. The last time that we had someone contest from Renok and Soreng was Mr. Bhandari himself. In 1999, I think, he contested from Renok and Soreng. So it will be interesting to see if there's any difference in how these 2 constituencies vote.
Absolutely.
And what the by-elections. And it has, for some time back, I don't know about the last election, I don't remember it very clearly, but some time back it had almost become a norm where the party president would contest 2 constituencies. We had seen that. Earlier it was because they didn't have candidates. So at least 2 a party president can contest from. So
it has become a tradition. Yeah. Anyways, thank you so much, Mr. Pema. Thanks. It was just, to understand your point of view, independent point of view, taking this election. But eventually, people reign supreme in democracy, and it's people for whom they will, vote. That's more important, right? Thank you so much. Thank you.